The chilling silence of a ringing phone. The sudden disruption of a daily ritual. A familiar face simply gone. These are the whispers of a nightmare that far too many American families have endured. A nightmare often compounded by the agonizing realization that the first line of defense, the very authorities sworn to protect, might have been the last to listen. Tonight, we delve into a case that ripped through the fabric of a nation, exposing a heartbreaking truth about how easily a life can vanish and how the critical moments that could have changed everything slipped through the cracks. This is a story of missed opportunities, a desperate race against time, and a community's fight for answers when the system failed them. What if they had just listened sooner? The quaint town of Havenwood, nestled amidst the rolling hills of New England, was the epitome of American serenity. Tree-lined streets, friendly neighbors, and the comforting rhythm of small-town life. It was here, in the heart of this seemingly idyllic setting, that 32-year-old Emily Thompson built her life. Emily wasn't extraordinary in the way celebrities or public figures are. She was extraordinary in the quiet, dependable way that anchors a community. A beloved elementary school teacher, a devoted daughter, and a friend whose infectious laugh could brighten the darkest room, Emily was a fixture in Havenwood. Every morning, she'd walk her golden retriever, Buster, past Mrs. Henderson's prize-winning rose bushes, grab her customary latte from the Daily Grind, and be at her classroom desk by 7:30 a.m., ready to inspire young minds. Her routine was a clockwork of predictability, a comforting constant in a world of variables. Then, on a crisp autumn morning, the clock stopped. October 17th, a Thursday, began like any other. Emily's mother, Sarah Thompson, received her usual good morning text. "Morning, Mom. Wishing you a great day. Love you." It was a small, daily ritual, a thread of connection that Sarah cherished. But as the day progressed, an unsettling quiet began to descend. Emily didn't call during her lunch break, a habit she rarely broke. Sarah, ever the worrier, initially brushed it off. Perhaps a busy day at school, a parent-teacher conference running long. But as evening crept in and still no word, a cold dread began to seep into her bones. Calls to Emily's cell went straight to voicemail. Texts remained unanswered. Sarah, knowing Emily's meticulous nature, felt a tremor of alarm. Emily wasn't one to simply forget to call. By 9 p.m., Sarah's worry had escalated into full-blown panic. She drove to Emily's charming little cottage, a short 10-minute drive from her own home. The lights were off. Buster, usually a boisterous greeter, was nowhere to be seen. The front door was unlocked, a detail that struck Sarah as odd. Emily was fastidious about security. Inside, the house was eerily silent. Her purse lay on the kitchen counter, car keys beside it. Emily's favorite mug, still bearing the faint ring of coffee, sat on the table. It was as if she had simply vanished mid-sentence, mid-life. Buster, it turned out, was safe with a neighbor, whom Emily had asked to look after him for the night. Another detail that seemed to contradict her sudden disappearance. If she had planned to go somewhere, why leave her car keys and purse? Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. This wasn't right. Nothing about this was right. She immediately called the Havenwood Police Department. The dispatcher on the other end of the line was polite but distant. Sarah, tearfully explaining the sudden, uncharacteristic disappearance of her daughter, was met with a response that would haunt her for months to come. "Ma'am, adults disappear all the time. She's probably just gone off with a friend or needed some time away." The dispatcher suggested waiting 24 hours, even 48 hours before filing a formal missing persons report. Sarah pleaded, her voice cracking, "But Emily isn't like that. She wouldn't just leave without telling me." But the dispatcher, however, remained unmoved, citing protocol. This initial dismissal was the first catastrophic misstep in a case that would soon grip the nation. The critical golden hours, the precious window of time immediately following a disappearance when leads are freshest and chances of recovery highest, were allowed to drain away by bureaucratic apathy. Sarah, feeling utterly helpless, spent a sleepless night calling every friend and colleague of Emily's she could think of. No one had seen or heard from her since the previous day. The next morning, driven by a mother's instinct, Sarah returned to the police station, this time with Emily's father, David. They presented a meticulously compiled list of red flags. Emily's phone, usually glued to her hand, had been silent for over 24 hours. Her car, a distinctive blue Honda Civic, was still in her driveway. Her beloved classroom, for the first time in her career, had been left without her. Even Buster, her constant companion, had been left with a neighbor, an arrangement Emily always confirmed with her mother beforehand. David, a retired detective from a neighboring county, tried to impress upon the officers the unusual nature of the situation. "This isn't a runaway," he asserted, his voice tight with controlled urgency. "This is a disappearance." Reluctantly, and only after significant pressure, the Havenwood police filed a missing persons report. But the sense of urgency, the immediate mobilization that such a situation warranted, was conspicuously absent. There was no immediate door-to-door canvass of the neighborhood, no immediate check of Emily's bank accounts or phone records. The investigation, if it could even be called that, felt like a slow, agonizing crawl. Weeks turned into an unbearable eternity for the Thompson family. Their faces, etched with exhaustion and despair, became a constant presence on local news channels, appealing to the public for any information. Flyers bearing Emily's smiling face blanketed Havenwood and surrounding towns. Volunteers, far more proactive than the local police, organized their own search parties, combing through local parks and wilderness areas, their hopes dwindling with each fruitless day. It was almost 3 weeks after Emily vanished that a break, though agonizing, finally emerged, and it came not from the Havenwood police's initial efforts, but from a persistent, sharp-eyed detective from the county sheriff's department, Detective Anya Sharma, who had been brought in to assist after the case gained some regional media attention. Detective Sharma, known for her tenacity and ability to connect seemingly disparate dots, took a fresh look at the case file. The initial police report, she noted, was surprisingly sparse. Sharma's first instinct was to revisit Emily's last known movements. She meticulously reviewed security footage from the Daily Grind coffee shop. On the morning of October 17th, Emily was clearly visible, smiling and chatting with the barista, her usual vibrant self. But as Sharma continued to review the footage from other businesses along Emily's routine path, something peculiar caught her eye. At approximately 7:15 a.m., just before Emily would have arrived at school, a dark blue sedan, unfamiliar to the neighborhood, was seen slowly cruising past her cottage. It made a U-turn and then parked discreetly a few houses down. The timing was too coincidental to ignore. Sharma then cross-referenced this sighting with traffic camera data from the main road leading into Havenwood. The same dark blue sedan had entered town just an hour before Emily's disappearance and, more crucially, had left town approximately 30 minutes after Emily would have been gone. A partial license plate was visible, but blurred. Still, it was a lead, the first tangible one the case had seen. Further investigation into Emily's digital footprint, a task that should have been undertaken on day one, began to reveal a hidden connection. Emily had been a passionate advocate for environmental causes, actively participating in local online forums and occasionally attending regional activist meetings. One particular forum, dedicated to a controversial proposed industrial development on the outskirts of Havenwood, drew Sharma's attention. Emily had been particularly vocal in her opposition to the project, often engaging in heated debates with proponents of the development. Among the forum members, one name stood out: Marcus Thorne. Thorne was a mid-level executive with Apex Holdings, the company behind the controversial development. His online interactions with Emily had been initially civil, but grew increasingly hostile. He had accused her of spreading misinformation and even privately messaged her with veiled threats, implying that her activism could have unforeseen consequences. These messages, initially dismissed by the Havenwood police as online bickering, now took on a sinister new light.
Detective Sharma's team immediately flagged Marcus Thorne as a person of interest. When they went to question him, he initially feigned ignorance, claiming he hadn't seen or spoken to Emily in months. But his demeanor was evasive, his answers rehearsed. A quick background check revealed Thorne owned a dark blue sedan, matching the description from the security footage. Furthermore, his alibi for the morning of October 17th was flimsy at best, consisting of vague claims of working from home alone. Armed with a search warrant, investigators descended upon Thorne's sprawling suburban home, located in a neighboring town. It was there, in the quiet, manicured residence of a seemingly respectable businessman, that the chilling truth began to unravel.
In Thorne's garage, cleverly concealed beneath a tarp, they found Emily's distinctive blue Honda Civic. Its interior had been meticulously cleaned, but forensic technicians, working with painstaking care, found faint traces of Emily's hair and fibers from her clothing. More damning still, they discovered a small, almost imperceptible blood stain on the floor of the trunk, matching Emily's DNA. Confronted with the overwhelming evidence, Marcus Thorne finally broke. His confession was a chilling tale of escalating obsession and rage. He admitted to stalking Emily after their online confrontations escalated. On the morning of October 17th, he had waited for her near her home, ambushing her as she returned from dropping Buster off at her neighbor's. He had wanted to scare her straight, to make her stop her opposition to his company's project. But the confrontation spiraled out of control. Emily, fearless and principled, had refused to back down. In a fit of uncontrolled anger, Thorne had attacked her, silencing her protests permanently. He had then driven her car to his garage, intending to dispose of it later, and then taken her body to a remote wooded area, hoping it would never be found. The discovery of Emily's body, hidden deep within a state park miles from Havenwood, brought a tragic end to the search, but it ignited a firestorm of national outrage. The media descended upon Havenwood, their reports detailing the agonizing 3-week delay in the investigation, the dismissal of a desperate mother's pleas, and the crucial evidence that had been allowed to degrade or vanish in those lost hours. What if they had listened sooner became the agonizing question echoed by every news anchor, every grieving citizen. The initial 24 to 48-hour delay in launching a serious investigation had been catastrophic. If the Havenwood police had acted with urgency, if they had taken Sarah Thompson's concerns seriously from the outset, if they had immediately checked security footage, phone records, and social media, Marcus Thorne might have been apprehended before he had time to meticulously clean Emily's car, dispose of her body, and construct his flimsy alibi. The evidence would have been fresh, the trail warm, and Emily, perhaps, could have been found alive, or at the very least her body recovered far sooner, saving her family weeks of excruciating uncertainty. The case of Emily Thompson became a rallying cry for reform in missing persons protocols across the United States. Advocacy groups highlighted the glaring disparities in how missing persons cases were handled, particularly when the missing individual didn't fit a high-risk profile. Emily was an adult, seemingly well-adjusted, and without any obvious enemies, traits that, paradoxically, led to her case being initially deprioritized. The public demanded answers. Why the delay? Why the lack of immediate action? Why the dismissive attitude towards a family's genuine fear? In the aftermath, the Havenwood Police Department faced intense scrutiny and widespread condemnation. Internal investigations were launched, leading to the reassignment of several officers and a complete overhaul of their missing persons protocols. Training was implemented to emphasize the importance of listening to families, recognizing subtle red flags, and immediately launching comprehensive investigations regardless of an adult's perceived risk factor. The 24-hour rule for adults, a common but often devastating practice, was formally abolished in many departments, replaced with a mandate for immediate assessment and action. The Thompsons, despite their profound grief, became tireless advocates for change. Sarah, once a quiet homemaker, found her voice, testifying before state legislative committees, sharing Emily's story, and pushing for Emily's Law, which would mandate a more rigorous and immediate response to all missing persons reports, regardless of age or circumstance.
David, with his police background, helped craft comprehensive training modules for law enforcement agencies nationwide, focusing on the critical importance of early intervention and the proper utilization of digital forensics in modern investigations. Marcus Thorne was convicted of Emily's murder and sentenced to life in prison, a small measure of justice for a family irrevocably broken. But for the Thompsons and for countless Americans who followed the case, the scars remained. The quiet town of Havenwood was forever changed, its idyllic veneer pierced by the reality of a darkness that could lurk beneath the surface, and by the painful truth that sometimes the greatest tragedy lies not in the crime itself, but in the opportunities missed to prevent it. Emily Thompson's story is a stark reminder that every missing person, regardless of age, background, or circumstance, deserves immediate attention and a thorough investigation. It's a testament to the power of a mother's intuition and a father's unwavering determination against a system that initially failed them. It underscores the vital importance of listening, truly listening, when a loved one cries out that something is wrong. Because in the silent spaces between a ringing phone and an unanswered text, a life can be lost, and the echoes of what if can haunt a nation forever. This is just one of the many real American crime stories that demand answers. If you want to dive deeper into cases like Emily's and explore the hidden histories behind headlines, make sure to subscribe to American Mystery Vault for more compelling content. We uncover the truths that challenge us, the mysteries that perplex us, and the stories that remind us of the enduring human search for justice.